Hello, everybody. Welcome to 3 Point Perspective, the podcast about illustration, how to do it, how to make a living at it, and how to make an impact in the world with your art. I'm Jake Parker.
I'm Lee White.
And I'm Will Terry. And all three of us are professional illustrators. We've all worked for all the major publishers in the business. Together we publish somewhere around 75 children's books, probably more like 76 now. And we've all taught illustration at university art programs.
Every week we either interview fantastic illustrators or we answer your burning questions about the field of illustration. Sometimes we agree, sometimes we argue, but each time you learn something brand spanking new.
Brand spanking new. And do you know what arrived in my mailbox a couple of weeks ago, and I've been wanting to share it on the podcast. You ready for this?
Let's see.
You guys have no idea what I'm going to show you.
I don't.
I'm changing my camera to this. Ooh. We're going to switch to speaker view. Now, have you guys seen this? This is the Amazon holiday guide with all their toys, right? Okay. And what they did was they've been doing this for the last few years. They hire an illustrator to illustrate the catalog. And this particular illustrator is Matthew Forsyth,
nice.
Which he has done a couple of really cool children's books that I have and just knocked it out of the park for this thing. So there's a story threaded through this whole thing. You've got this fox on the cover. He's got an Amazon box on his bag. He's got like a ski toboggan thing, right? Uh-huh. And then there's a little page here. It's interactive. Ready, set, go. Make your holiday gift list. So you can write a little list there on the front page. But welcome, holiday racers. And then back here, this is got a perforated edge, so you can tear this out if you want to. But then follow the race and solve each activity to find out who wins. So there's a little map here showing all the little activities throughout the book. And then each one of these things is like gorgeously illustrated. We've got Meet the Racers, Fox, Owl, Raccoon, Bear. And then we get into the toys, and it's toys, toys, toys. And then somewhere peppered throughout, you're going to find like little touches of his artwork. We've got, here's one of the activities, half page.
Also a little spot illustration there on the left.
Yeah. Little spot illustration here. But I wanted to point this out because, you're an illustrator looking for work. Would you have ever thought that this would be a job you could get? Illustrating the Amazon catalog.
I'd be curious to see what the budget was for that.
I'm curious what the budget is.
Notoriously cheap.
I'm curious what the distribution is on this.
He probably got paid $50 for 500,000 copies.
Well, here's the thing. I know Matt's agent, and I could reach out to her and just say, was this, a 4-figure deal, a 5-figure deal, a 6-figure deal?
It'd be interesting to get a ballpark.
It was 5 figures.
Yeah,
It's probably 20 to 50,000.
It would be considered advertising, and that's where you start getting the big money. Yeah. So while it's masquerading as a narrative in the publishing sort of genre, it's not. It's advertising, and you do make a lot of money that way.
How's that for a range? 20 to 50,000. Could be 60.
So it's $1 to $100,000.
That's right, somewhere in there.
And
he probably made $25K at least.
Those are the jobs that make your year. That's for sure.
Right.
Well, not to mention, is his name credited? Because that could be even worth more.
Meet Matthew Forsyth.
That's
he has a whole section here. I'll read it. Matthew Forsyth is an artist and designer living in Los Angeles. His first book, Poco and the Drum, won the Charlotte Zoloto honor for picture book writing, and his second book, Mina, was a Governor General Award finalist. He's also the lead designer on several animated shows, including Adventure Time and the Oscar-nominated film Robin. Learn more about Matthew.
That's where I know his name from.
Is it for real?
Yeah, Adventure Time. That's where...
Oh, okay. You've seen it before. But check this out. So learn more about Matthew at amazon.com/Matthew Forsyth. So it doesn't take him to his website. I wonder if that's for legal reasons, because they don't want to be responsible for for what's on his website, or if it's just a part of the deal. Like, we're going to give you. It's probably to sell more of his books. If you go to that link, it's probably to his author page, right?
They should have put a QR code for him on there.
Yeah. So there we go. I just wanted to kind of lead with this really cool, interesting illustration job, and kind of congratulate Matthew on doing a killer job on it.
It's a good gig, and he did great. It looks really fun. Yeah, nice work.
Okay, next item up for discussion. You guys familiar with Nathan Hale, who does the
Hazardous Tales?
The Hazardous Tales, right? He
just released a new book.
Yeah, he just released a new book. This is a guy I want to have come on the show at some point. He has done work for SVS. We have a class of his. He did a graphic novels class, how he approaches graphic novels, and the guy does some is prodigious, and his work is excellent. It's AAA quality. I'm going to share a screen here.
Now you know that I shared a room with him at ALA in LA.
Okay.
And so I've seen behind the scenes.
So you've seen him with the shirt off.
I know what's going on. I know what's really going on.
What's really going on is he working in the hotel room trying to.
He works like a
deadline.
dog. He works so hard.
I wonder if
he's
if he's still doing that grind. It seems like it, because look at this website. Look at how, how focused it is. Okay, you come to the website, home of cartoonist Nathan Hale. Here you have 3 options, and they're badges, and they're all done in his style. There's a badge that says Nathan Hale's Hazardous Tales, Science Fiction and Fantasy, and then a third one that says School Visits. So this is a guy who has focused his career. Now, I know he had a previous career early on doing mural work. I know he's done, just all kinds of illustration work and freelance odds and ends, like all of us end up doing. But he really zeroed in and focused his website. And I just wanted to show this as an example of a good focused website. You go click on Hazardous Tales. You've got very large image of each of the book covers and a little bit of background info of what the book is. And so scroll through all those. There's 8 or 9 of them. Science fiction and fantasy. He's done a couple of science fiction fantasy books with each one of these also has like the reviews for the books on them as well. And then this is the part I really want to show because it has to do with what you've been doing, Will, and that's school visits.
Mm-hmm.
So he school visits is like a part of his career, part of his income. And I've seen him do a presentation before. I went to a presentation that he did at Provo Library for Graphic Novel Day that they do every fall, I think. And he opens with, is your school looking for a high-energy author visit? Something that covers writing, drawing, storytelling, and social studies? Invite Nathan Hale. So there's the pitch right there. And then he explains what the presentation is. I draw my presentations live on screen. The combination of live drawing and storytelling makes it a fun, captivating, and educational experience. So he's given you his essentially his unfair advantage that he has over other author visits. Mm-hmm. You know, he's not clicking through slides. He's actually drawing it live. Then he gets specific. And this, I guarantee this is all from having done 50 presentations and having to answer questions over and over and losing jobs maybe to go do a presentation. He breaks it down. He says for grades 3 and up, I tell an exclusive Hazardous Tales story, not from any of the books. It can only be heard at a school visit. It is U.S. history at its silliest and grossest. So that right there kind of piques the librarian or the teacher in charge of getting school visits. They're like, okay, we're going to get something fun and unique. For kindergarten through second grades, I give a drawing lesson, then finish with a group drawing activity. The quick changes in format keep the little ones engaged. Each student will need a crayon and 2 pieces of paper. I'll also need a large flip chart or a piece of butcher paper. And then he closes with, presentations are 1 hour long, but can be condensed to 40 minutes. If your student needs 15 minutes to get seated, please plan accordingly. So that's like very broad, very specific, not broad, very specific information on what you're actually going to be paying him to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you do workshops? He answers about workshops, and then it gets to how much. $4,000 per school day. This this is nice. You don't have to email him to find out how much it is. There's no back and forth. He just has a flat fee. It's going to be this. You can either pay it or you can't. This flat fee covers my honorarium and travel expenses. I will do as many presentations, workshops, and activities as your school day schedule permits. And then he says, I'm happy to split a day between 2 schools to cut the cost. For example, 2 presentations in the morning at school A, 2 presentations in the afternoon at school B. This only works if the schools are close enough to drive between quickly. Cost per school, $2,000. And then
I got to comment on that. That's pretty smart in that he's going to book his own flights and hotels and stuff, and that really it makes it easier on the school. I've done it
so
in
much
the past
easier.
where they do it for you, and they have to, there's a lot of back and forth with asking like, is this okay? Is that okay? What I prefer to book my own flight. Then I can choose the airline. I can try to get miles.
Well, you can stay over too if it happens to be somewhere where you got family or friends or whatever. So yeah.
Right.
Yeah, you don't have to be like, well, can you do the return flight a week later, and you don't have to explain.
Right. And if you want to take your wife, you can book both tickets at the same time.
Yeah, exactly.
So
then he goes in, best location for presentation. Library is ideal. Auditoriums are great for large groups. Cafeterias aren't great, but if it's all you got. And then he goes, no gyms, in all caps. For years, I've tried to make gyms work. They do not work. The echoey sound, the noisy bleachers, bad acoustics will ruin any presentation. I've had it happen too many times. Gyms make a miserable day for me and the students. If you have a group that will only fit in the gym, consider splitting it into smaller groups that will fit in your library. And that's true. I have you guys ever done a presentation in the gym?
Yeah.
I have not.
I have a lot. And it is echoey. I've never thought about, but you see, he's in a place where he probably doesn't need to do the school visits, so he's in a place where he can dictate more.
Yeah, but he's also letting them know kind of what the ideal thing is. They may not even think about that until they see it and like, oh, that makes sense.
To be honest, it hasn't been that big of a deal for me. Like it's echoey, but they can still hear.
I've done both. I've done libraries and gyms. And what's interesting about a gym is, well, both of these rooms have a psychological connection to the kids. So when they're in the gym, they're thinking lunchtime / playtime. Yeah. Right? And they have to sit still and listen. When they're in the library, they're thinking sit still and listen, be quiet and read. It comes with the space. So I think they just come in already prepared to participate and engage with him in a way that's more conductive to the learning when it's in a library. Then he says there's a section on tech needs. Presentations and workshops require a standard projector and screen. I bring my own cords and dongles. If your tech people want details, I draw on an iPad and I can connect through both VGA and HDMI setups. There's, this is all stuff that they're going to want to know just in case for backup. If your space is large, a handheld microphone is appreciated. And a podium if your school has one, but I can make any table or chair work. No music stands. They never stand up.
You know what I add to that microphone thing is a mic stand, because if you're drawing on your iPad, I do the exact same setup he has. If you're drawing on your iPad, you can't hold the mic and draw at the same time.
That's true.
Unless you have a podium. But if you have a table, it's just anyway, the lapel mic is the best. I asked for a lapel mic.
Yeah, or one of those headset ones.
Yeah.
All right, book signings. Students with books get an autograph and a drawing in their book. No personalizations or inscriptions. I always get names wrong. This can ruin a student's day. Skipping names makes the signing go faster and avoids mishaps. Plus, a drawing is more fun. So again, sounds like more experience-driven requests there. Or not requests, but accommodations. Do we have to feed the author? No. Public speaking ruins my appetite. Save the stress of author food and put it toward a lunchtime activity. I'm happy to do a Q&A, workshop, or drawing class with your book club, your library volunteers, the art class, etc., or use the block to schedule another presentation. Which I
have something to say about all these. You know, the problem with the lunch thing for me is a lot of schools will cater a nice lunch. They'll go get Olive Garden or something, and then all the teachers that want to be authors are in there, and they're firing questions at you as fast as they can, and you can't eat. So you have this good food in front of you, and you also are worried about like eating. I usually skip lunch on those because who wants to be like trying to talk and burping? Like it messes with your gastro, right? A little bit right after lunch, and then you got to do a presentation, and they bring you this big lunch that you can't really eat. So I'm with him on that.
So what would you do? Just have a lunch? You bring a lunch?
I usually turn it down. And if they cater it, I'll try to eat with them because they went to all that trouble. But I haven't done enough to where I've said, okay, no lunches.
Yeah.
I've left. I mean, I've probably done, Nathan's probably done hundreds of school visits. I've probably done in my whole career about 50, I would guess, which is a lot, but it's not like a career.
Right. I'm less than 50 too, probably.
I'm less than 0, less than 1. I'm at 0.
You haven't ever done a single school visit, Lee?
Not a single school visit. Colleges. I visited, illustration programs.
But Jake, there's a background forms that you have to fill out.
Oh, right. You never passed
No,
that.
I did a book signing a long time ago at a Barnes & Noble, and a kid started crying, and I just never got over it. It was just traumatic. I was trying to make the kid not... Yeah. I was trying to teach him how to draw... I tried to teach him how to draw a witch. I had this Halloween book, and it's started basic shapes. Okay, we started with a triangle, then you had like a U underneath the triangle that makes it an easy face, and I go through it, and this kid, 3 or 4 of the kids are like super happy, and they're holding theirs up, and then the other kid totally breaks down because her witch doesn't look good, and I was like, oh, this sucks. I'd rather be home drawing.
I came up with a fix for that. I had that happen in a school visit. Little girl crying so hard she couldn't make a sound for a while, where it's going to come.
The face is already made.
In front of all of her classmates, she's just bawling because hers doesn't look like the kid next to her. So my thing now is I teach them to draw like a cat or a penguin, but I tell them like yours should not look like your neighbor's. This is your cat. Yeah. I don't want it to look like the person next. If it looks like the person next to you, you're doing it wrong. This is yours. We're going to make all kinds of wacky body shapes. And we make a list of like what makes a cat, like the triangle nose, the pointy ears, the whiskers, the paws, the little round nose or cheek things. What is that? The nose is the triangle.
The muzzle.
What's the muzzle?
Muzzle. Yeah.
Muzzle tough to you. So anyway, that's what I do, and then I have them put those things on, and I haven't had a kid cry since I started doing that.
That's pretty good.
That's pretty good.
That's genius. Also, some of the kids, I tell you, that I learned from that event that when some of the kids drew the witch, I liked theirs better than mine, and I'm like, oh my God, there's something to a raw mark.
The raw, yeah. Hey, we won't need to interview Nathan after this. We'll just tell him that we interviewed him.
Yeah, this is better than having him, having him come. No, what about the book signings as far as personalizations?
I personalize. I'm going to do it. That's what everybody wants.
Yeah.
I think
The weirdest thing though is signing a book and having them say, "Can you make it to Janice? I love you so much. Happy 30th
Right.
anniversary."
I'm like,
So
why didn't you
awkward.
write that in there?
So
They haven't thought it through. They're like, why would the illustrator write that for you? Like, go ahead and
Yeah.
write that yourself, and then have the author illustrator sign it.
Right.
Yeah, those are dumb.
I agree. I do love doing the picture too, though. That's and you get so good at drawing your character,
Mhm.
like freehand, no sketching. I could practically do missile mouse with my eyes closed.
Mhm.
Okay. While I'm at your school, I'm up for reading clubs, group lunches, special Q&As, interviews, activities, etc. That you'd like to plan. Just make sure to list it in your schedule. So that seems fair. You know, you're
Mhm.
there, might as well get the
Mhm.
most out of them. I'm the same way. What about Skype or digital visits? I don't do digital visits. I do have a few author drawing videos on my YouTube channel. So I wonder what the deal is with that. If it's like just a day wrecker, like the visit's coming up at 10:30, so you got to like break what you're doing at 10:15. Make sure your thing's working.
It's hard. I'll bet you what it is. It's not written on here.
Mm-hmm.
If he's going to ruin his day, or if he's going to donate a day, he wants to get paid that amount of money.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to charge that amount of money for a virtual visit.
Yeah.
That's why he's saying.
I would much
He's like,
rather make the like $2,000 than $4,000 and do it from my studio.
Me too, but no one's going to pay that. I don't believe people would pay that.
They'd pay
So that's
10.
why I think he's saying no. It's not really. He's not really giving you the answer, because I guarantee you, if he could do a virtual visits for $4,000 a day, he'd work them from home. He'd work them into his schedule.
He'd figure it out.
It's funny that we're
Yeah.
talking about this because I got a request to come speak at a school today. It was not $4,000. It was less than that by taking a zero off of that number.
Wow.
I mean, would you guys ever do that? Because when you decide to do a school visit, it destroys not just your day, it destroys your week because you got to prep for it.
I'm
Sure, everything's ready.
I'm doing one on Friday for $400. Ironically, so you're saying $400, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I get to sell my books there,
Oh, that's a
and it's
bonus.
different. And again, I think we said this before on a different podcast, but when I first started doing it, I would fly out to different cities. I'd do a week of school visits. The school would order my books from my publishers, and I wouldn't have anything to do with the books except they would send me home each night with a couple of cases of books to sign for the next day. So I'm like, it's wrecking my hotel experience. I'm just in there signing all night long. And then I bring the books back, and you know what I make from that $100 book sale? My royalty is like $50. It's like 50 cents a book. So it was a thorn in my side to have to sign all those for $50. Well, now I can make $10 a book or more on the Pickleball Paul books. I make even more than that. So if I sell 100, that's an extra $1,000 in my pocket. So this school visit on Friday will probably be more like $1,500. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's local, and it's also just a morning.
Yeah. No,
It's not all
airplane.
day. It's just the morning, one presentation. I go in there, nail it, sign their books, and I'm out of there by lunchtime.
Here's the thing, though. Once you have a presentation figured out, then and you sort of have all the motions figured out of packing your travel bag, packing your overnight bag, packing your presentation stuff, what your presentation is. Once you've done that a few times in a row, it's less of a cognitive drain like prepping for this trip. You just
It really
be like,
is.
boom, got the ticket, show
That's
up, do the thing, come home.
I wish I
But-
could show you guys. It's just funny that we're talking about this right now, because my keynote is just so dialed in that I don't even have to think about it. Have you ever used Keynote?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I've used Keynote. Yeah.
It's like, and for those of you who are listening, we're on YouTube at School of Visual Storytelling, but I just have have my keynote completely figured out. I know exactly what I'm doing. And then I have different lessons in there that I can skip at the end if I need more time. Like some presentations are a half an hour, some are 45 minutes, some are an hour.
Mm-hmm.
And I have modules that I can throw in, drawing stuff on Procreate,
Mm-hmm.
where I'll draw, like I'm illustrating like an action prompt, an emotion prompt, and I'm doing it. The live drawing is what they respond to that, and reading the book and talking about what I was thinking of while I illustrated certain parts of it. Seems to capture them, especially like the emotion stuff. When you change the emotion on a character, you just show them a boring character. You're like, what if he got angry? What would he look like? And then you just throw a layer on there and make him angry, and they're like, they just love that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, you're right. Like once you do it a few times, it's not a stressor anymore. You just
One little thing I like doing that just adds a little bit of a personal touch to the presentation is I have my presentation. The first couple of slides and the last couple of slides are color. They have a specific color on them. And what I'll do is figure out what the school I'm visiting, their color is, and I'll go in and switch the color to that school's like school colors. And if I can find a logo, I'll stick their logo on the bottom next to my logo. So I have the JP logo, and then I'll put their logo next to it. And so they know that it's like I made this for them, right? And then the middle section is my standard presentation that I do. So that no one's ever said anything like that was a nice touch. It just feels good to know that like they're getting something that's unique to them. The other thing too is I always have like the first slide up and it just says my name. It's author, illustrator Jake Parker, Mr. Jake Parker. And that too kind of sets the tone as they're walking in, so they know that who the heck this is, who's visiting. There's a piece of my artwork, behind it and whatnot. So anyways, I just wanted to kind of dig into his author visit page because it's something that comes up every so often on this podcast. I know that is information that is applicable to maybe 2% of our audience.
We did a deep dive. I was wondering, we're going really deep here.
Well, but we do deep dives on all kinds of subjects.
Yeah.
I know. I'm just saying. Like I just thought it was going to be like, hey, check out his website. He's got some school info. But man, we went through item by.
This is you know what this is going to be. This is searchable content. You make stuff that's like clickable, and that's fine. But then sometimes you got to make stuff that's searchable. So anytime anybody's going to be like, how do you do an author's visit? Mm-hmm. This will show up on the 20th spot in their suggestions.
In our self-publishing class, we're gonna have a section on this where you really can make a living just doing school visits. There are a lot of illustrators and authors who are in the schools every week, and with the numbers, I mean, you can make anywhere from $400 or $500 a day on the low end to $2,500 is about the most I've heard of. With his 4,000. Including travel, that's probably getting close to the 2,500 upper end,
Mm-hmm.
Wait, why is it 2,500 when he's charging 4,000? That includes
he's gonna
the travel?
pay for. No, 2,500, not including your travel expenses.
Right, but does his 4,000 include?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So $4,000 and he'll pay for the travel and all that.
Right, and I would imagine that he's charging top dollar just because he probably doesn't want to do school visits all the time. If you wanted to be in the schools, so there's all kinds of approaches you can take to being successful as a children's book illustrator. One of them is that you're in the schools all the time during the school year, selling your books, and keeping your publisher extremely happy so that your publisher publishes anything you put out.
Mm-hmm.
That's the David Bedricki approach. We hope to get him on as well.
It's a commitment.
It's a huge commitment that he's had, but he illustrates over the summer and then and during the year as well, but he really gets his stuff done, and he'll release like a book a year. And his publisher will basically publish whatever he writes because he sells it. I mean, like, if an average, it seems like I average sell 100 books in a school.
Yeah.
If you sell 100 books, by the way, he's in the schools like almost 5 days a week through the whole school year. He said he did 163 school visits or 161 last year.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
So what is that times 100 books?
Bookings?
That's 16,000 books.
Oh.
16,000 books he sold on his own. Well, to make a book profitable, the publisher really only needs to sell, 5,000 or so?
Mm-hmm.
So he's saying, I'll sell 3 times what you need to be profitable.
Mm-hmm.
I'll put you in the profit no matter what.
Right.
And so the publisher's going to
So
say...
he's the best friend of the accounting department.
Yeah. They're not gambling on him when they put his book
Are
out.
they
They'll
paying
go
for
sell it.
are the schools paying for his flight and hotel?
Yeah.
So he's got a...
He makes top dollar. He's also got a mailing list of the schools that pay the most, and the ones that appreciate author visits more than. There's 4 levels to schools. There's this 0 is the level where the principal thinks it's a waste of time and they don't want authors and illustrators visiting the school.
Right.
So it's up to you'll get a principal like that, where they're like, no, I've had teachers say, I really want you to come to the school. Well, I know our principal's not down on it. Let me see if I can do it. They get back to me. She won't go for it, or he won't go for it, whatever. Level 1 is, yeah, we could do a school visit with you. Yeah, let's organize one. They're not really, they're not really that into it, and you don't get any special treatment. Not that I need any special treatment, but you just kind of go and do it, and there's no fanfare, there's no lunch, there's no nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Level 2 is they're really excited that you came or are coming. They've been preparing for you weeks in advance, and you'll eat with them, and they really kind of cater to you a little bit. Level 4 is they pay you top dollar. They have their students. I've had this happen where the students in the whole school illustrated one of my books, and they in their own style, and then they posted all of them in the entryway of the school. Like the whole entryway was plastered with these stories that they wanted me to look at, as many as I could, the catering from Olive Garden or from wherever,
I love this. I love how Olive Garden keeps coming up in all your school visits.
This episode's sponsored by Olive Garden, and so we worked it in seamlessly.
Do you love unlimited breadsticks?
But they treat you. Every single kid is uttering your name. They know who you are when you get there. They and to be honest, like, you could be the janitor if they were hyping the janitor.
Yeah.
Right.
Like,
they just like the hype. It doesn't matter what they're hyping.
We have a guy from the water treatment plant that's going to come and visit our school, and you'd be king for a day, no matter what occupation you have.
They hand you the key to the school, and
pretty much
you wear it around your neck, and there's babies that you have to kiss and everything. That's a level 4. There's
level
no
4
level 5, right?
There probably is.
Level 5 is the school comes to your house.
Well, level 5 is you do a Zoom call for $4,000 for an hour.
In that one.
If Lee was doing school visits and he was in charge, he could keep the money, but he had to pay for his own flight and his own hotel. He'd be booking those like cheap airfare where it's you could sit on someone's lap for half the cost.
Spirit Airlines, you ride on the wing.
Right.
You can't. Carry on. Can't do it.
He'd bring a tent with him. Just set up the tent in the parking lot.
Yep.
No carry on.
He might not even have a haircut yet.
Little fence though. Don't ask me questions. That's my rule. When I'm at a school visit, my rule is no kids talk to me.
I
wonder why you haven't been invited to any schools. Curious.
Do you think you could ever get to a level where you could, on your website, you could put like, I don't want any yellow M&Ms in, I need a bowl of M&Ms, yellow ones.
That's rock star level requests when you're starting to pull out candies.
I
candies.
want Fuji water, not any other brand will do.
Right, with a cherry dropped in there.
I want it aerated. I want it opened with the cap off.
What would be your literally, like actually, if you were at that level and you were, jerk enough to care,
Mm-hmm.
what would be your thing?
Me?
Your must-have accommodation.
I can't think like that because I'm not like
my
that.
must-have accommodation would seriously be, I do my lunch by myself.
Yeah, that does sound amazing.
It
I mean,
does.
because when you're around all those kids, I mean, even just teaching a regular class,
Yeah.
you go in your office and shut the door, and
Yeah.
there's no silence as great as
you
that.
can't
Mhm.
you can't enjoy, you just can't really enjoy the lunch with everybody except for the fact that, so for me, I feel obligated. They want you to sit with them in the teacher's lounge and eat
Mhm.
lunch, and they want to ask questions, and I get it. I would want that too. So I figure I'm on their dime. I'm going to give them whatever they want.
Right.
Whatever they
Well,
want.
as long as the dime is enough, like if it's $4,000 a day, I will make you lunch, and then we'll all eat it. You know, like I'm down. But the problem is it's sort of the add-on workshops that they're doing. Like really, you're doing another workshop at lunch, and if they're not paying enough for that, it's just an exhausting day.
It is,
it's
but you're
almost-
spoiled, Lee.
I'm not spoiled.
I'm here to tell you you're spoiled.
Am I
You
spoiled?
are. Yeah.
I will say that
Think
the
about
coolest,
it. Well, hold on. How much do you think our average listener makes at illustration or at a job or a hybrid of both?
I
The
have
average?
no idea. I mean, that's a.
I have no
that's
You
a
know,
idea.
we
great-
probably
that's a
have
great
listeners
question.
that make, anywhere from
But you're saying what you're
5,000.
saying. Your point here is you're wealthy enough to not have to worry about this, and I'm not. But I'm okay being poor. That's the difference.
if you're listening to this on YouTube right now, put in the comments your annual illustration salary. No.
What I'm saying is,
I don't
what I'm saying
mind-
is the
I
amount
don't
of
mind
money
being
that
poor.
you can make doing this. Like I was talking to my wife because we're soliciting more school visits right now because we live in this area in Phoenix where there's 400 schools. So we're going to actually send a postcard. And if you're part of our Patreon, I'm going to be doing a pro tip on the mailing list upcoming pretty soon here.
Mm-hmm.
But if you could, I was talking to her and I'm like, if we made $1,500 to $2,000 a day doing this, and we did 40 or 50 in a year, and this is sleeping in our own bed because they're all local.
Right.
Uh-huh.
I mean, if I was around that,
Do the math on
number,
that. That's a
number
nice
is-
extra
that
chunk
number's
of
good,
money.
Though. Is everybody getting it? Like, for example, would you do the singular school visit? Like, I understand if you got a presentation already done, and somebody says, "Hey, you want to come to our school? I got $500," but you already have this thing ready to go. I understand that visit because you're not prepping a lot, whatever.
Right.
But like this offer I just got from this school, like,
Yeah.
do I go? It's going to be a one-off.
No,
$400.
that's not worth it. You're
Okay.
you're absolutely right there. If you're gonna, the only way it makes sense is if you're gonna do a bunch of them,
You're going to do it for real.
Yeah.
Yeah. Gotcha.
or if you feel
I agree with
charitable
that.
because you know the person or you want to give back, then do the one-off. But
Mm-hmm.
but you're right. Like you have to have the motivation to really dial in your presentation so that it wows the kids. So I haven't told you guys this yet, but I've gotten 2 more school visits from the one that I did last week.
I'm sure I'm sure
because
that's like a snowball rolling once you start getting those.
The
referrals.
librarian told her, she went to a meeting of other librarians and she was just like bragging it up, and then they emailed me and they're like, hey, we want to get a visit too. So they're scheduled,
Yeah.
one in February and one in March now,
Dang.
just from those 2 referrals and stuff. So
I did a visit 2 weeks ago for free, and it was at my kids' school. So their teacher reached out and just said, hey, we're having a creativity week, and we're bringing people in the community who are creative out. And so that was sort of my community service for that week, was going in, doing a presentation, meeting all the students, and
that's cool.
and whatnot. It was really nice. It was in the cafeteria / gym, so it was they got a little crazy, but they were also older, so that
Mhm.
you could rein them in a little bit
Mhm.
easier. They knew
Right.
what we're there for and
You know,
whatnot. They're
my
junior high
third-
age.
My third kid, who I had a lot more to do with raising up that little pup, because my wife went back to teach school, and so he was in a bassinet under my drawing table. So I really claimed ownership on that little guy,
Mm-hmm.
And when he got of age, he went to elementary school. I couldn't get into his school.
Really?
Even for free, yeah. There was one of those principals that was like, nah, it's a waste of time. Nah, it's a waste
Kids
of time.
got real learning to do.
Yeah, I had each one of his teachers. Well, not each one. The first grade, second grade, and third grade. We'd go in there, parent-teacher conference, and I'd hint like, oh, have you ever, like, and sometimes they'd have one of my books on their shelf. Be like, oh, I illustrated that. What? Oh, we got to have you for a school visit. I'm like, well, your principal. Well, I'll make it work.
Never made it work.
Could never get in there.
I wonder what the deal was. Well, we've got a couple questions. Should we take
start
a couple
this
of those?
Should we start the podcast now?
This is good podcasting. I feel.
I don't know.
I feel.
I'm on the
If
fence.
you made it this far, give us a thumbs up
I don't know.
emoji. If you made it this far.
No, we're talking about schools. What about isn't there a book emoji? We do the book.
Let's just do a thumbs up.
Man, that's so
Well, thumbs
boring.
up if you like me. Book emoji if you like Lee.
Go on
scared
YouTube
now.
and look at his hat that he's wearing. I don't think that we were talking about that before, but the haircut that's needed.
It is
Okay.
a needed haircut.
Question from Robert. He says, subject, who decided it had to be drawn this way? Is there anything in the drawing or animation world that you don't like how it is drawn, but draw it that way anyway because it is the commonly accepted way to portray something? For example, 4 fingers on a hand instead of 5, or the duck bill, quote unquote, for the brim of a baseball cap. I thought that was interesting as far as style and how do industry standards sort of come into play? Is it deliberate or is it just natural, right? And I was thinking about specifically the question of the 4 fingers on a hand. Here's what happens is you have thousands of artists drawing and they're posting their work or in the rubber hose day of animation, they are sharing their drawings on the silver screen, right? And so other artists are seeing what they're doing and whatnot. Prior to animation kind of came out of newspaper strips, right? That's where it evolved from newspaper comic strips to animation. And someone came up with the solution that when you're drawing a simplified, cute figure, you eliminate 1 finger. And then you have 3 main fingers and a thumb, right? And that just has stuck for over 100 years now, more than 100 years. And then the reason for that is it just works. And it's a nice, simplified solution. And it's almost like it's shorthand, right? For lack of a better term, on how you do
No
things.
pun intended.
Right. Shorthand. Dots for eyes, right? The simplification. So I think what's going on here is somebody comes up with a solution. It's broadcasted in a way that lots of artists see it. Other artists realize that's a great solution, and they implement it. And I think it's no more complicated than that. And then eventually someone's going to come up with a different solution on how to do things. So if you look at like Adventure Time hands, they even eliminate the thumb in some drawings, and it's just like 2 parallel lines and then like a letter M or 3 little knobs on the end of it, right? And it's such a nice solution, and that might even be, it could be simplified to no fingers, just a hand. You see that
It's
in
like
some
a mitten
really,
or like a paw.
exactly.
I'm gonna bring that in. That's my next book. Mom, I chopped off my fingers. Have you seen in comics for more realistic stuff? It's this hand. I mean, I actually look around at people like on the bus or whatever, and no one's basically what I'm doing. If you aren't
That's
seeing
the
the
one
YouTube,
I draw.
is the middle 2 fingers are together almost as their own finger, and then the other fingers are open. And I never see people in real, because I was wondering like where in the world did that come from, because I don't ever see people with that pose on. Do you think it's for that simple?
You don't live in Arizona, because on Arizona, on every bus,
everybody's just doing that. I mean, so they're basically making 3 fingers.
That's a Disney thing as well. The hands that were designed for the more realistic characters. Again, it's just awkward to draw 5 fingers open like that. And so what they do is they'll simplify the 2 fingers or 3 fingers and the index finger, or the index.
So basically just grouping a couple fingers together.
Yeah, you got to group them.
Yep.
Well, I just, like I said, I'm going to group all 4 together and put the paw. I got the paw going on.
Got the paw going. As for like the duckbill hat thing, I think that's, you know what? It all comes back to Disney.
But I feel like 90% of your answers are Disney, whether it's true.
You know, when I drew
you just
Bonaparte,
like Disney so much.
I drew like Disney.
I drew Bonaparte with that baseball cap. I'm like, I'm not doing it. I'm gonna draw a 3/4 view. I'm gonna draw it like it's supposed to be, like it looks in real life. It looks better to me.
So you did the figure 8.
No one came to me and said I was in violation, that I had to take it down,
or not the figure 8, but the infinity sign. If you guys ever want a good way to draw a hat, it's sort of an infinity sign. A boat is the same way. That's a cheat for drawing a boat. Infinity sign, and that gives you your dimension. Anyway, side topic.
Do you remember the first time you drew the middle grade S shape with the 3 sets of 3 lines? You cross it over. You make it. It's the diamond S. Make the diamond on the top. Do you guys remember the first time you drew that?
What is it?
It's here. I'll share my screen really quick.
I have no idea what you're talking about right now.
Once I do it, you're going to know exactly what I'm talking about. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Okay, you can see that okay?
Yeah.
We're going to make my brush bigger. Got it? That thing.
Oh, I've never done that before in my life.
I've never done it, but I've seen it.
You've seen it. You guys have never done this before?
No. We're not followers.
It's amazing though. It's an amazing yes. I think I've seen it in a logo.
Yeah.
Like the session snowboard.
We're also
logo.
we don't come from the tagging background. We weren't in trouble with the law, you know.
The New York street scene.
Yeah.
So what's funny is you draw the 3 lines, 2 sets of 3 lines on top of each other. This line connects, the outer line connects to the middle line on the bottom. The top middle line connects to the outer line. And then you cross over, and then you just do triangle top, triangle bottom. And what's funny is seeing the kids, trying to figure it out, and they'll be like, oh, shoot.
It's like a maze.
Yeah. They don't know how to do it. Anyway, that's one of those meme drawing things where I think it somebody figured it out in like the 50s, and it just kind of passed down from generation to generation until young Jake.
What are what question I get more than anything from kids or even just art students is,
what's your favorite meal at Olive Garden?
That's one. That's probably the first question. And it would be the seafood portofino.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
But the second question is it okay to do swoosh lines, like motion lines?
Really?
Like the 2 little jiggle lines. I don't know what to call them,
Yeah. I know what you mean.
Like for illustration, is that appropriate or is that cartooning?
Is it too cartoony?
Yeah.
What's your answer?
Mine's a hybrid. I'm like, I think that motion lines can be good, but I don't think that you need to like all of a sudden go into cartoon mode in your head. Like if your style is kind of semi-realistic or just more rendered, you can make motion lines that actually match your style. But you don't have to do all of a sudden like get out your ink pen and go slash.
Right. I think that's the solution. Yeah, absolutely. All right. Next question.
What was that question? That question we just answered was: is there stylizations that we do that we don't want to do? Because he wasn't
I
asking
just
just
skipped
are there.
over that part.
He didn't even answer his question.
It was a good question. It was like, do we use the duckbill?
Yeah, do we bail on the
Or is there an accepted
whatever
way
the
with, like,
stylized
four fingers?
convention is
Yeah.
for? So what's the answer to that question? I mean,
well, okay.
Personally, I think you should do what makes you feel good. Like, make your art. Don't just conform. We didn't get into this business to be conformists, so don't conform.
But
I guess that's my
not
question:
conform
is
too much.
there anything that's so dominant of a convention that you feel pressured to do it? I don't think I've ever thought that. That I'm like, oh man, I want to draw a hand with 5 fingers, but the stupid Mickey Mouse, I got to draw 3. You know what I mean? Like, I just never have felt that pressure. Is that a legitimate concern?
No, I get it. I have recently felt like if I was going to, pitch an animated show or make a more contemporary looking comic, I would probably need to shake up my style a little bit and have some of that Cartoon Network 2023 flavor to it, where everything has. I mean, there's just every generation has a style that they do things, the way they do things, and I'd say Adventure Time kicked off a new sort of phase in animation style, which is bled out into everything, and now it's even like Matt Forsyth's Amazon stuff that we were showing there has a little bit of that that design flavor to it, and he works in animation, obviously, so you're going to see some of that in there. And so the question is do you conform or do you stay unique? And I think for some people, conforming is good, and it's a way to have a career. And for other people, they stand out more and maybe have more success not conforming. But like your style, Will, is based off of the editorial illustration styles of the 90s and 2000s, right? And Lee, your style is sort of based off of, it's like an evolution of some, I would say 2000s, late 90s, 2000s children's book illustrations. Like, who would you say is your biggest influence, or was your biggest influence?
Back then, I mean, we've talked about that a little bit before, but like back then it was, Joe Soren and
Lane Smith,
Mark Wright, Lane Smith for sure. Yeah. I don't feel like I have too much. I think a lot more like Elizabeth Zwerger influence now than I had back then. So I already changed.
Yeah, you still have that in your DNA, those original things.
Right. True.
With Elizabeth Zwerger filter, probably.
Right. And just some general sort of updating. But I mean, I guess it's true. You can't just get stuck in your rut, because like we've talked about on this show a lot, like sometimes there's an era that people just get stuck in and you can spot it and they can't get out. Like I was doing a portfolio critique of someone that had that problem. Like they cannot get out. And it's almost like they see the world through that way. And that's like the hardest. That is the hardest thing ever. Because
but they would have to mechanically break. You'd have to give them they'd have to give themselves an assignment or get an assignment from someone like you that would force them to break
truly break their mold, and they couldn't go back. Like they'd have to accept it almost immediately. So it's tricky. I mean, I think it's something to be cognizant of, because I was talking to my wife about this the other day, that I don't know how, you think people are artists for life. I do believe that, but they're not always illustrators for life. I mean, how many of those people that were in the early or late 1990s and early 2000s, how many of those people are we seeing daily putting out new books now?
Right.
Not much, right? I mean, barely any, actually. And so it's just I think it just goes through phases, and then people move on. But if they do want to stay in a long time, that constant evolution absolutely has to happen, which is why you need to do personal work, and then piggyback that on what Will said. You got to make the work that you're making, and but you can't do it just in a vacuum, because if you do get stuck, then you're going to have to unstick yourself, and that's where good teaching comes in, and that's where our school, SVSLearn.com, comes in. Do you like how I worked that ad in there? That was so smooth.
That's amazing.
You're the segue genius.
No, but you do need to see. You do need to keep pushing, and it's almost impossible, I think, to do it by yourself over continual decades of work. You have to have somebody push you out of that. You get too comfortable.
Right.
You guys mentioned Joe Soren. Have I told you my theory on Joe Soren being a time traveler?
No.
No, do tell.
Maybe.
This has gone off the rails.
Maybe.
Well, like AI, it puts like 6, 7, 8 fingers on a hand, right?
Right.
Well, you've seen how he does his hands, right?
Oh, that's true. He was doing AI hands before AI was even...
I think he's seen the future.
Or AI was trained specifically on his work starting
this
out.
one guy.
Which begs the
From
question,
it.
what if we as illustrators, what if we banded together and started putting 6, 7, 8, 9 fingers on hands to trick the AI to
would
really
be
mess
awesome.
it up? So it couldn't ever really learn what's right and what's wrong.
We have it in our power. You saw that text I sent you with the cat fishing. He's got his little bucket next to him, and it says above that the artist, and then the AI is this other cat that walks up, sits down next to the cat fishing, and plumps his fishing pole in the cat's fish bucket.
So he already has a
fishing
fish
out
in.
fishing out of the fish bucket.
That was good. That was actually a great concept.
Yeah. You know, it reminds me, good illustrators need to fuel themselves with good food. And right now, there's an all-you-can-eat breadsticks offer at Olive Garden.
It's a soup, salad, and breadstick deal
Right.
that's been going on for the last 35 years.
And they have like placemats there with crayons that you can draw on, and
That's
so you
exactly.
can practice while get better at Olive Garden.
Okay, can we do the next question now? This comes from Amberlyn, which is a cool name. I love it. Subject, art as the new cottage industry. I'm a stay-at-home mom, and while others in my position take up candle making or Scentsy, I'm attempted to resurrect my art career. Do you know what Scentsy is?
Yeah.
Sensei, that's like a karate expert.
No, it's a multi-level marketing candle company.
Oh,
It's the one that a
interesting.
lot of people like because it's actually a fun product.
Yeah.
It's a scented candle, and they have all kinds of.
And if you can't sell them, you just have a bunch of scented
So they have
candles.
parties. It's
Anyway.
like Tupperware or like Mary Kay, where
How do
you
you know
invite
that she's
your
not a
friends
martial
over.
arts expert?
Because it's spelled scent, like smell
Oh,
of scent.
scent. Ah.
Scentsy.
ah.
Anyways.
Sensei candles.
So some others in her position take up candle making or Scentsy. She's attempting to resurrect her art career. She says, I can only realistically dedicate 2 hours a night to art, so I want to be effective with my time. I don't want to sell my art on its own. I want to sell a product. But looking through ideas on what to make, it's hard not to become discouraged as the market for artistic goods is so heavily saturated online. I don't have a direction yet, so I'm lost in a sea of options. I know the short answer is trial and error, but I don't have much time for either over the week. Thank you for reading. Any help or insight would be appreciated. And
That's a
we've
big
got
ask. I mean, essentially,
Yeah.
that's what should I do?
right.
Yeah.
Right.
You know what's
That's large. I mean, that's too big.
What's funny is there are a handful of ideas that I know I could make really good money doing
Mm-hmm.
as an illustrator, and I don't have time to do them. But I don't want to put them out there because I might want to do them someday. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
yeah. So you're not going to give those away.
No, but what I think that people don't spend enough time being creative and trying to ask themselves what things people want. You know, what would something that people would really love to have. And there just are a lot of things that either aren't being done well or aren't being done by you or, you know, in your style. I don't know.
It's a good thing, and I would even back that up a little more and ask a question before that, and that is, what do you want to get out of it? I mean, like, do you really want to make? Is it about money? I mean, is it truly
Right.
like, hey, I got to pay this rent? That's a different business. That's a different path than somebody who's trying to be more satisfied artistically
Right.
and can show at a coffee shop, and that's all that they need. I just want to show my work in public. That's one thing. I want to sell something, so because I just want to prove that I'm a pro. That's one thing. And then I need to make constant money. That's another thing. So the big thing to me is asking what you specifically want. And then this is the hard part for illustrators, and that is actually writing a business plan. And what I think a lot of people are going to see when they write a business plan is we have a horrible business. It's not good. If you say, I mean, if you just wrote down, and a lot of people don't want to admit this, but you just wrote down, here's where I'm going to be in 5 years. Here's how this business works. Here's how the cost and expenses break down, and realistically what I can expect. It's not good if you're waiting for client work. Now, some people get that client work because they've been doing it forever and they've followed a certain path that got them there. Like, say, Yuko Shimizu, she gets a bunch of advertising work. She does a campaign for a beer ad, and she gets $50,000. And that's not normal though. And so you got to think like, make the business plan match the goal that you have, and where it's going more so, in my opinion, and this is totally my opinion, is that you have to make something that is going to be your own. Like we've talked about here, like self-publishing is becoming such a focus because waiting for work just doesn't work.
Well, and making stuff for a general market is working less and less.
Right. There's too much stuff out there. Like
we've talked about it before, where there was a time when I was growing up where there just wasn't the same number of children's books that are produced every year that there are today. It's multiplied.
Right, and that person was making bank like back in the day. And that wasn't even that long ago.
They would publish a book and the print runs were larger than they are now, which tells me that the shooting for the middle is the wrong way to go, because the middle is saturated, right? Another problem with children's books is, for the most part, and this is a gross generalization, but the audience does not pick the book. It's someone else that picks the book for the kid. So your fan is, until you become a really big name, people will look for a title that fits what they're looking for at that time. It's Halloween, I'm looking for a Halloween book. It's Christmas, I'm looking for a Christmas book. And this one looks good. They don't know who the author or the illustrator is. And by the way, it's not the child picking it often, it's the parent picking it for the child. And that's one reason why the school visit is so valuable, is because you have teachers that say that, they send my form home and they say that the pitch to the parents is, hey, you guys know that reading, we want your kids to have books and to read. There's an author coming to the school. And really why I think I sell 100 books at one school visit is it's not so much that the parents want the books. It's almost that they're afraid that their kid will feel left out if he doesn't get a book or she doesn't get a book.
There's probably an element of that, yeah.
You know what I mean? So they're like, oh, I don't want my kid to feel like we don't have the money, which is really sad in a way, right? So
yeah.
I don't know, Jake, when you go to a comic convention and you've got comics, you've got Missile Mouse, or you've got what was the other,
Skyheart.
I'm like, my brain was doing Braveheart, not Braveheart. It's like,
right.
Your fans, you're selling directly to your fans. You're talking right to them. They can't wait to come up and get the book signed because they like Jake Parker art. They're collecting your art. My fans are non-existent pretty much. They're like, I'm king for a day, and then they'll forget who I am.
Right.
They might remember some of the things from the school visit, but it's
I feel like that was our relationship for the first 5 years too.
What's that?
You were king for a day, and then I'd forget who you were. Just kidding.
True story.
I'm sorry. I think, just thinking about what you guys are saying, there's like two paths before Amberlin, and that is make art for yourself versus make art for others, right? And I think what you have to do is figure out, what are you good at doing? I click through her Instagram page, which is Pushing Blooms, @Pushing Blooms. It's a cool name. And deep down in there, she's got jewelry that she makes. She does watercolors. She's got a handle on how to make art, and there's room for improvement, but there's also, some skill there, right? So what are you able to do? So that's one circle in this Venn diagram. Another circle is, what do you like doing?
Mm-hmm.
And then the third circle is, what can you sell? What are people going to buy, right? And where those three circles converge, that's where you're like really going to be cooking on all cylinders. Is that how the phrase goes?
Cooking with gas or running on all cylinders, I think is.
Yeah, something like that.
By the way, did you say pushing blooms or brushing blooms?
Brushing blooms. Did I say pushing?
I thought you said pushing.
Pushing
and
daisies.
I was thinking, if I was Amber Lynn,
it's brushing blooms.
Amber Lynn, I would hate you for saying pushing blooms.
I know. So you go. Let's say you're at a an art fair or a comic show or like an art farmers market. Farmers market says art, and you have a booth that's very niche and it's all one thing. It might be easier to sell those things than it is to sell like a hodgepodge of like 50 different things.
Mm-hmm.
So people know you. It's like, oh, you do the cool chicken art, and everybody who owns chickens loves their chickens, and they're going to want chicken anything in their house to represent their love for their chickens because they're a chicken person. And so, if the spouse loves chickens, then the other spouse is going to be looking for the Christmas present or the anniversary little extra something or birthday thing, that's like an original watercolor of the same kind of hens that you have. So, these barred rock hens with the beautiful stripes, and they're going to want that on their wall. Like, that's sort of the mindset that you have to think if you want to make this into a side hustle. If you're just content making art, that's going to be a little bit longer road finding that fan base who's sort of loves everything that you love. But I think if you look and you figure out a niche of something that you're really into, just make stuff for those people, and I think you'll be on your way to like having a nice side hustle.
I just registered chickeneverything.com.
Sweet.
So don't think you can get that now. It's taken.
Chicken everything. That'd be a great
put a
name
chicken
for a
on
sandwich shop.
Chicken everything. Put a chicken on it. It's going to be my new niche.
By the way,
for illustration.
Do you guys know, like, I'm just looking at stuff right here. Do you know people do art with M&Ms? Like, just by taking the different colors?
I've seen the portraits and stuff, like the Mona Lisa with M&Ms and all that stuff. I've seen people do it with rocks on the beach.
Right.
People are crazy talented.
And shells and stuff.
And yet artists aren't paid near what we should be, with that kind of creative thinking.
That's the thing, though. You make one of those rock portrait things, and you make a couple of viral videos of that, and you glue them to a canvas or something. You're probably going to be able to. You say, I'm open for commissions for the next year, and they're $10,000 each. I bet you could get 12 people to sign up, and there's your 6-figure side hustle.
Mm-hmm.
I like it. I mean, it's interesting because, like, to think that way, you really do have to think that way. As like, how do I think different and think of something that's unique that is sellable? I was talking to, I don't know if it was Will or Anthony Wheeler or both over the past week. We were talking about games, and one thing that I noticed on Kickstarter, like when I went to go do my tarot deck, I'm a children's book illustrator. I mean, but that's how I think of myself. And my first instinct is to always make children's books. But if you start looking at illustration as a business, you start thinking of, or what I started noticing is that tarot decks sell a lot better. There's a different use for them, and if you look at that as being a driving factor in kind of how you approach the market, not like, oh, I have to make a children's book. It's hard to make money at children's books, but it's a lot easier with a tarot deck, I noticed. And then since then, I've noticed that games sell quite well. There's no reason you can't think narratively building a game, because all it is a goal to move a character from one place, the beginning, to who wins, and how does that narration take place. So instead of maybe doing a book, which everybody has, maybe you make a game, which everybody doesn't have.
Mm-hmm.
Just an interesting kind of line. Do I
What's
change
funny
my
is-
media? Whatever.
Yeah. To that game thing, and I think it was me you were talking to, not Will.
Oh, neither one of the people that I
But I would push. This is where we're going to have to argue. We got to argue a little bit on this one, because I would say you're looking at Kickstarter, and Kickstarter isn't good for selling children's books. But there are a lot of people who make really good money, both in traditional publishing and self-publishing in children's books. I've gotten examples for Self-Publishing Pro of people who have sold a lot of children's books.
What's a lot?
$500,000.
Shut up! Really?
Yeah.
Oh, we should do some kids books. It's a great.
So
it's a great easy business.
It's like anything you try, any market you try is going to have its difficulties. There's not going to be. Then
I'm
there's
just
always
thinking
going to be
this-
people
look
there.
at it differently. I mean, like
Right.
even if you make a kids book, how many books with a cat making cookies or some just basic concept is there that's not going to stand out? If you make a children's book, it better be unique in some way.
Yeah.
If you're going to stand out in that giant group,
Yeah.
Right.
that's my only point. Not that they can't make money.
To give you the example, like when I did my my little vendor day thing, I had my Pickleball Paul books out there with my other children's books, and we didn't sell very many. We sold like 15 books the whole day, and we sold almost like an equal number in just a few of the pickleball books. But when my sales guy who sells my children's books this last weekend, he went to a tournament that had the same number of people there, he sold a whole case. He sold
Right,
40 books in one day. And he's just hitting that niche market. He's just, everyone there cares about pickleball. And at the vendor day, how many people walking around even play pickleball or know what it is,
Right.
So I was in this general audience where he was in that niche audience. So
Niche to get riche, right?
yeah.
Niche to get reach. I'm just saying, look at all of it as a business. Don't just lock in on one thing that everybody's doing.
Yeah.
I agree. I've been listening to podcast interviews and just general discussion around gaming and making games and that whole world of indie gamers. And there's one guy a couple times now who talks about making games, and he's like, man, if I could just make a children's book.
That grass is always greener, right?
Yeah.
Always.
Grass is
Always.
always greener where you water it.
There we go.
Should I take us out?
Do it.
Yep.
Okay. All right, everybody. Thank you for joining us. 3 Point Perspective is made possible by our sponsor, Olive Garden, where feeling great illustration starts. We're brought to you by SVSLearn.com, where becoming a great illustrator starts. Your hosts are Will Terry, Lee White, and Jake Parker. Special thanks to our podcast producer, Daniel 2. It's daniel2.co. That's tu.co. Special thanks to our keeper of curriculum, Austin Shirtliff. Shownotes wrangler, Lily Howell, and our chief operations officer, Lisa Fott. Now, go draw something. Will, $7,000. I think I'd rather have haircuts, because I have made genuine friendships with my barbers, which you haven't.
Oh, I didn't factor that in.
Yeah.
So you probably hang out a lot on the weekends with your barber?
No, but my current barber, he hooked me up with my T-shirt manufacturers, where I get my T-shirts made now, which is his brother-in-law who does it.
Mm-hmm.
And he's hired Miles to do paint. He paints guitars and stuff and skateboard decks for his decoration in his shop.
Mm-hmm.
And then he just this one and the last one, the one I had in Utah, were just kind of like like every 5 weeks outside perspective therapist person.
Mm.
So I could literally come to them with anything in my life, because they don't know anybody else in my life, and just lay it out, and they'll be like, well, here's what I think. Which is super handy, maybe even worth the price of the haircut.
Wow. I never thought about that. It's like therapy while you're getting a haircut. By the way,
Yeah.
we were talking about, this whole thing started because Lee needs a haircut and he's hiding it with that hat.
Hey, what do you guys think about this though? I just thought of if I ever leave illustration and go into the haircut business, therapy.
No.
Come get your haircut and talk about your problems.
No.
There's something there. But the ones I've talked to, they're like, yeah, that's part of the job. Actually, is
Listening.
just listening and talking and
Pretending to be interested.
to be interested. I asked them, "Does it bug you?" And both of them were like, "No, I'm actually genuinely like it. They've said, and I've asked as a couple. They said they're bored if the person doesn't talk to them. You know,
That seems like it would be awkward to sit there getting your haircut and not be chatting about something.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's that nervous sort of energy, that kind of awkward silence if you're just like sitting
Really
there.
awkward.
I don't know.
Yeah. All right,
So,
you guys ready to start this thing?
Let's do this.